Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can recreate this dolly zoom effect that I used in my latest short film, Administrator. So let's get right into it. Now, in traditional film, a dolly zoom is accomplished by zooming the camera out while the camera moves closer to the subject, creating that difference and parallax in the background. Now, if you're filming yourself and you're alone, it's kind of hard to do that. So let's get right into how we can recreate this effect without moving the camera at all and without all of the expensive equipment. So let's go over what you will need to recreate this effect. You will need 2 shots, one of your subject in front of a green screen, and one of a wider angle of that same shot. So with this shot, I used a lens that is a little bit more zoomed in, and this is what the background of that one looked like. But since we need a wider angle in the background, I switched my lens over to a wider angle. Left the camera in the same spot, just switched the lens to get a wider shot, and you will see why we need that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and start things off with this clip. Now what we'll need to do is we'll just grab the part that we need and bring it in to our timeline and put it on video layer 2. So we'll grab our background and drop that underneath, trim it to the length that we need, and there we go. So now let's go ahead and get this green screen stuff all sorted out. I'm going to come here, take that off for a moment, and let's go ahead and create a new Fusion clip with this one, and we'll jump into Fusion. So now that we're here in Fusion, most of these things should be available to you in the free version, if that is the version you have. This is Davinci Resolve Studio, but all of this should still be accomplishable in the free version. So we'll go ahead and come to our media in, make sure it's selected, do Shift Space to open this menu, and type CC for Color Corrector. We'll add that, Shift Space again, and we'll type in Delta for Delta Keyer, and we'll come here to our toolbar and add a polygon, and take this output and drag it to this darker gray triangle. Not the white one, but the darker gray one. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So now let's come into our color corrector and we'll increase the saturation just to make it a little bit easier for our delta keyer to distinguish the colors of this shot. And we'll come in here also to our lift and just drop down the lift, which affects the dark parts of the shot. Now that'll help separate the chair from the green. Now let's come in here to our delta keyer and grab our eyedropper and drag it onto our green screen. And there we have our green that is now transparent. And we will come and clean it up in a little bit. Now we have this stuff down here that was not eliminated or covered by the green screen. So we're gonna go ahead and address that now. Come in here to our polygon and we'll zoom out a little bit and go ahead and draw an outline around the chair until you get to the green screen. Then you can just cut across and then back to the other side of the chair. We can just go down there just like that. Now that'll take out this middle part, but we want to eliminate the opposite. So we'll come in here to invert and invert it, and now everything is gone that we don't want to be in the shot. So let's go ahead and come back to this, and we can look and see what some of the green screen imperfections kind of around here is a little bit kind of grainy and noisy. You can see the edge right here. So we'll go back into our Fusion, and we will come in here to our matte controls, and we'll come in here to matte, and we can see that there's a little bit of gray speckles. That means transparent stuff in the chair and even in my eyes and hair. So what we'll do, and even my shirt. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here to clean foreground, and we're going to just bump that up just a little bit, not too much, and we'll go clean background as well, just a little bit. And that'll get rid of most of the stuff that we don't want. We can go clean foreground just a little bit more. And that looks pretty good right there. So now we can come back here to final result, and that should help our key be a little bit better. So now that we have that, it's not perfect. I'm not an expert at green screen stuff, but we'll go ahead and go with this and move on to the more exciting stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the zooming effect last for a duration of 3 seconds. I found is a pretty good length. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to our clip and into our inspector and go ahead and add a keyframe about 2 seconds into your shot, and then go 3 seconds later and add another keyframe. Now we'll just leave this first one at 1, and we'll do the second keyframe, and we'll increase it to about 1.3. So it'll zoom in a little bit like that. Let's go 1.25, just so it's not quite so huge. And so now we see that we go back, and it'll zoom in over the 3 seconds that we determined for it. Now let's go ahead into the background layer and do kind of the same thing. So we'll add keyframes where we want them to be, and, oh, wrong one. Except we're going to do the opposite. We want it to be more zoomed out at the end. So we'll leave it there and go back to the first one. You can use these arrows on here, and that'll take you to the next keyframe or the previous one. So with the background, let's go ahead and zoom it in a bunch, and we'll go like that. So now we have this zoom parallax effect of them going opposite directions. With this top one, I'm just going to shift it over a little bit more into the middle. There we go. But now that also reveals more imperfections in our green screen keying, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So that is good for those. Now we don't want them to be as abrupt and sudden as they are right now. If we watch it, the beginning and the end are just hard start and hard stop. So we're going to come in here to our keyframe controls and just highlight both keyframes and just select this curve, and that'll kind of take the hard edges out of the adjustment there. And we'll come into the background one and do the same thing, give it a nice curve in and curve out, and that'll make it more fluid like that. Awesome. We're already getting close. So let's go ahead and fix those green screen issues real quick here in the Fusion tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop down this threshold just a little bit. If you watch along the edge of the chair, you can see a little bit of the difference there. That just kind of takes it off of the dark things, which is where we want to clean it up. And we'll come back in here to our delta keyer and just go a little bit cleaner on the foreground and cleaner on the background. And also we'll just take this gain and just bump it up just a little bit. Cool. Now that we have that cleaned up a little bit, we can see that over here the edge that was kind of a straight line is a lot more cleaned up. Cool. Now what we're going to do next is going to add some things to really sell the effect, and that is going to be adding blur to the background and distortion to the top clip. So let's go ahead and do the distortion while we're here. So we'll come into the effects library, open effects, and lens distortion. Now I'm not entirely sure if this effect is available in the free version, but if it isn't, you can maybe do some of the same things down here in lens correction. But I'm going to show you how to do it with this lens distortion effect. So we'll come in here to open effects, lens distortion. Now we want the beginning to have no distortion and then the end to have more distortion. So we'll go ahead and come here to the beginning and we'll come to the end, but we're gonna bump it in about half a second earlier, so 12 frames early, and then we'll have that at another keyframe. Now we'll go to the first keyframe and make this 0. And now, by the time it reaches 2.5 seconds, it should distort. And it is. If you can see kind of this bottom edge is kind of curving up, that is what we want. So, as you can see, there's all this stuff with the black bars and everything disappearing. So one thing that we kind of out of necessity have to do is add these output blinking bars. So come into your timeline, output blinking, and it will add these letterbox bars that will disguise and hide the things that we don't want seen. So one thing I'm noticing is that my face gets a little bit big here at the end. So we'll come back in here, go to the end, and we'll just do 1.2. Just a little bit less gigantic on my face. Now let's play it through. Cool. We're pretty much there. Nothing crazy wrong happening. And now let's go into our background and add a little bit of depth of field with our zoom. So let's come here to this effect, lens blur. We'll drag that onto our bottom clip and that will blur out the background. Now it's a little bit much. So let's go 3.5. That's a little bit better, a little bit more believable. So we'll want to make sure to add a keyframe here at the beginning of our zoom, and at the end of our zoom, we're going to dial back the lens blur to about 1.5. That'll leave a little bit of blur in the background, but not too much, because as your lens gets wider in real life, that's what happens to the focus in the background, is it gets harder to get the background out of focus. So that's what we did there to make the effect more subconsciously believable. We'll go ahead and come in here to our color page. We'll add our color correction, add a little bit more dynamic stuff, a little bit more saturation. You can add your look however you want. And what we can also do is add our sound effect. This is the one that I used for the original short. It's just this sci-fi downer, just to kind of add sound to the effect that we are doing. So once you've added all your sound effects, anything that you want to, you have now successfully recreated a dolly zoom without a dolly or a zoom lens. So that does it for this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. It'll help other people find this tutorial so that they can create this same effect in their films. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Administrator mode activated. Please consult your instruction manual for further direction.